I finally found her. The words were so quiet, Emily almost thought she was dreaming. Her eyes snapped open. For a second, all she saw was the soft glow of cabin lights reflecting across the darkened airplane. Then reality crashed into her. A man she had never met was holding her baby daughter in his arms. Panic surged through her chest. She reached forward instantly, taking little Sophia back against her shoulder. The baby barely stirred, still asleep. "Who are you?" Emily whispered. The stranger didn't answer right away. He simply looked at Sophia with an expression she couldn't understand. Relief, disbelief, even sadness. His expensive suit jacket was folded neatly beside him. A silver watch glinted beneath the cabin light. Everything about him suggested wealth, confidence, control. Yet his eyes looked strangely emotional. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "I didn't mean to scare you." Emily tightened her grip around her daughter. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it over the hum of the engines. The stranger slowly raised both hands. "She started slipping from your lap while you were sleeping. I was only helping." Emily glanced down. The blanket covering Sophia had indeed shifted. Embarrassment mixed with fear. She had been exhausted. More exhausted than she could remember. 3 nights with almost no sleep. Too many worries. Too many bills. Too many problems with no solutions. Still, something felt wrong. "How do you know her name?" she asked. The question hung between them. The man's expression changed instantly. Just for a moment. A flicker. A mistake. Emily knew she had seen it. He knew the baby's name. She was certain of it. Outside the window, clouds drifted beneath the aircraft nearly 6 miles below. Inside the cabin, everything suddenly felt smaller. Tighter. More dangerous, even though no real threat existed. The stranger leaned back slowly. "I overheard you earlier," he said, "when you were talking to her. It sounded reasonable. Maybe too reasonable." Emily wasn't convinced. Before she could ask another question, the captain's voice echoed through the speakers, announcing they would begin their descent into Chicago within the hour. Passengers shifted in their seats. Some stretched. Others woke from naps. The moment seemed to break. Yet Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening. She looked down at Sophia's tiny face. The little girl slept peacefully, unaware of the strange tension surrounding her. Then a folded photograph slipped from the side pocket of Emily's worn diaper bag and landed on the floor. Before she could grab it, the stranger picked it up. The instant his eyes landed on the image, all color drained from his face. He stared at the photograph as though he had just seen a ghost. Emily froze. The cabin noise faded into the background. The stranger's hand trembled slightly. For the first time since waking up, Emily felt truly unsettled. Because whatever was in that photograph, this man recognized it. And somehow, deep down, she knew their lives were about to change forever. Emily carefully took the photograph from the stranger's hand. Her pulse refused to slow down. The image itself was ordinary. At least it always had been to her. A young woman stood beside a lake beneath a summer sky, smiling toward the camera. The woman looked remarkably like Emily, though slightly older. Most people assumed they were sisters the moment they saw the picture. They were right. The woman in the photograph was Ava, Emily's older sister, the person she missed every single day. "How do you know her?" Emily asked quietly. The stranger looked away toward the window. Chicago's city lights were beginning to appear beneath the clouds. For several long seconds, he said nothing. His silence felt heavier than any answer. Finally, he released a slow breath. "I am not sure that I do," he said. "But she looks familiar." Emily studied him carefully. The explanation felt incomplete. His reaction had been too strong, too personal. Sophia shifted against her chest, letting out a sleepy sigh. Instinctively, Emily kissed the top of her daughter's head. The simple gesture seemed to affect the stranger even more. He watched them with an expression she could not read. Not pity, not curiosity, something deeper, something emotional. "Are you traveling home?" he asked. Emily almost laughed. Home, the word, barely meant anything anymore. Not exactly. Business trip. She shook her head. More like a last chance. The stranger remained quiet, waiting. For some reason, Emily found herself continuing. Maybe because she was tired. Maybe because she would never see him again after tonight. "I lost my job 3 weeks ago," she admitted. "Rent is overdue. I sold most of what I owned. A company in Chicago agreed to interview me. If that does not work out, I honestly do not know what comes next." The stranger listened without interrupting. Most people offered advice immediately. Others offered sympathy. He did neither. He simply listened. That alone felt unusual. "You came all this way for one interview?" he asked. "One interview is all I could get." A faint smile touched his face. "That sounds like courage to me." Emily looked down. Nobody had called her courageous in a very long time. Usually she felt terrified. Every day brought another problem. Another bill. Another reminder that she was running out of options. Before she could respond, a flight attendant approached their row. "Mr. Brooks," she said warmly, "the car service you requested is confirmed for arrival." Emily barely noticed the words at first. Then her head lifted. "Mr. Brooks." The name sounded familiar. Very familiar. The stranger immediately thanked the attendant, though a flash of annoyance crossed his face. As soon as the flight attendant left, Emily's eyes widened. She suddenly remembered where she had heard the name. Daniel Brooks, founder of Brooks Technologies, one of the most successful business leaders in America. His face appeared regularly in magazines, interviews, and business articles. She stared at him in disbelief. The casually dressed stranger sitting beside her was not just wealthy. He was a billionaire. Yet somehow that was not the most surprising part. The most surprising part was the way he continued staring at the photograph of her sister, as if the answers to questions he had been asking for years were hidden inside that faded piece of paper. The remainder of the flight passed beneath a strange cloud of silence. Emily tried to focus on Sophia, adjusting the little blanket around her daughter while pretending not to notice Daniel Brooks sitting beside her. Knowing who he was changed everything. Suddenly, the expensive watch made sense. So did the calm confidence. So did the way flight attendants seemed to recognize him instantly. Yet none of it explained the photograph. None of it explained the look on his face when he saw Ava. The aircraft finally touched down. A gentle vibration rolled through the cabin as the wheels met the runway. Passengers immediately reached for phones, bags, and jackets. Conversations filled the air. Emily remained seated. She hated rushing. Besides, Sophia was still asleep. Daniel stayed where he was as well. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he glanced toward her. "Good luck with your interview tomorrow." Emily blinked. "Thank you. I mean that." His voice carried a sincerity that caught her off guard. Most people would have stayed home. You got on a plane with a toddler and chased an opportunity. That says something about you. Emily looked away. Compliments felt unfamiliar these days. Life had become a series of problems demanding immediate attention. Confidence was a luxury she no longer had. "I am just trying to keep going," she said softly. Daniel nodded as if he understood perfectly. Eventually, the line of passengers began moving. Emily stood, balancing Sophia against one shoulder while pulling her worn diaper bag into place. As she stepped into the aisle, something slipped from the outside pocket and landed near Daniel's feet. He bent down and picked it up. It was a folded piece of paper. A hospital bill. Emily's face immediately warmed with embarrassment. She reached for it quickly. "Sorry." Daniel handed it back without comment, though his eyes briefly caught the amount printed on the page. Nearly $3,000. More than Emily could afford. Much more. She tucked it away before he could see anything else. Minutes later, they entered the terminal. Bright lights stretched across polished floors. Travelers hurried in every direction. Announcements echoed overhead. Emily expected Daniel to disappear into a waiting car surrounded by assistants. Instead, he slowed his pace. "Do you have transportation to your hotel?" he asked. "A shuttle bus. At this hour?" "It is free." A faint crease formed between his eyebrows. Free is not always convenient. Emily smiled politely. Sometimes free is all that matters. Daniel looked as though he wanted to say something else. Before he could, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. The expression on his face shifted instantly. Not annoyance. Surprise. Then concern. He looked back toward Emily and Sophia. The phone remained in his hand. Whatever message had just arrived clearly mattered. A lot. Yet instead of reading it again, he watched the young mother walking through the crowded terminal. And for reasons even he could not fully explain, he suddenly became certain that meeting Emily Carter had not been an accident. Emily stepped outside the terminal and immediately felt the cool Chicago air brush against her face. It was nearly 10 o'clock at night. Sophia was awake now, her curious eyes studying the unfamiliar lights beyond the airport. Emily forced herself to smile at her daughter, even though worry sat heavily in her chest. Tomorrow's interview represented more than a job. It represented rent, groceries, stability. A future. She adjusted the diaper bag on her shoulder and followed signs toward the shuttle pickup area. Around her, travelers climbed into taxis, rideshares, and luxury vehicles. Emily checked her phone. The battery was down to 9%. Another small problem added to an already long list. As she reached the curb, her phone vibrated. An email notification appeared on the screen. Her stomach tightened instantly. The message was from the company scheduled to interview her the next morning. She opened it with trembling fingers. The smile disappeared from her face. Due to unexpected restructuring, the position had been placed on hold. The interview was canceled. Emily read the message twice. Then a third time. The words never changed. The opportunity she had crossed half the country to pursue no longer existed. For several seconds, she simply stood there. Cars pulled in and out. People laughed nearby. Airport announcements echoed in the distance. Yet everything felt strangely quiet. Sophia reached up and touched her mother's cheek. The tiny gesture nearly broke her heart. Emily swallowed hard and forced herself to keep moving. She had to think. She had to figure something out. Sitting down on a nearby bench, she opened her banking app. The balance staring back at her felt almost unreal. $52.18. That was all she had left. Hotel costs would consume most of it. Transportation would take more. After that, nothing. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly blinked them away. She could not afford to fall apart. Not now. Not here. A black luxury SUV rolled slowly to the curb several yards away. Emily barely noticed it until the rear passenger door opened. Daniel Brooks stepped out. For a moment, she wondered if she was imagining things. Why would one of the busiest executives in America be standing outside an airport watching her? Daniel approached carefully, giving her space. I was hoping I could catch you before you left. Emily stood immediately. What are you doing here? Instead of answering, he glanced toward her phone. Something happened. It was not a question. Somehow he already knew. Emily laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. My interview was canceled. Saying the words out loud made them feel even more devastating. Daniel's expression darkened. Not with surprise. With concern. Genuine concern. I am sorry, he said. Emily looked away toward the city skyline, glowing in the distance. I keep telling myself things will get better. Her voice became quieter. Lately it feels like every door closes before I even reach it. Daniel remained silent for a moment. Then he reached into his coat pocket and removed a business card. What if one door just opened instead? Emily stared at the business card in Daniel's hand without taking it. The airport lights reflected across its smooth surface. She could already see the company logo. Brooks Technologies. For a moment, she wondered if this was some kind of misunderstanding. People like Daniel Brooks did not stand outside airports offering opportunities to strangers, especially strangers carrying diaper bags and worrying about $52. Why? She asked quietly. Daniel lowered the card slightly. Because I think you deserve a chance. Emily almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it sounded impossible. You do not even know me. I know more than you think. The words slipped out before Daniel could stop them. A brief silence followed. Emily immediately noticed the change in his expression. There it was again. The same mysterious look she had seen on the plane. The same feeling that he was hiding something important. What does that mean? She asked. Daniel glanced away toward the traffic moving through the pickup lanes. It means I know you are determined. I know you crossed the country for your daughter. I know most people would have given up already. Emily folded her arms. That is still not enough reason. Daniel nodded slowly. Fair point. For several seconds, neither spoke. Sophia rested comfortably against Emily's shoulder, her small fingers wrapped around a loose strand of her mother's hair. The simple sight seemed to affect Daniel once again. He looked at the child with an emotion that felt strangely personal. Then he handed over the card. This time Emily accepted it. Come to my office tomorrow morning, he said. No promises. No special treatment. Just a conversation. Emily studied the card. The address belonged to one of the most recognizable buildings in downtown Chicago. You are serious? Completely. People spend years trying to get meetings with you. A faint smile appeared on his face. Then perhaps they should try sitting next to me on an airplane. Despite everything, Emily found herself smiling back. It was the first genuine smile she had experienced all day. Yet uncertainty remained. Opportunities often came with hidden conditions. Life had taught her that lesson repeatedly. What exactly would this conversation be about? She asked. Daniel hesitated. For the first time since they met, he seemed unsure of himself. Part business, he said carefully. Part something else. Emily's grip tightened around the card. Something else. Before Daniel could answer, his phone rang. The screen illuminated briefly. A name appeared. Michael Reynolds. Daniel declined the call immediately. Seconds later, another message arrived. Then another. Whatever was happening clearly required his attention. Yet he remained focused on Emily. Tomorrow, he said. I will explain more tomorrow. Emily wanted answers now. She wanted to understand why a billionaire kept appearing exactly when her life was falling apart. She wanted to know why Ava's photograph had affected him so deeply. Most of all, she wanted to know how he recognized Sophia's name before she ever introduced her daughter. But before she could ask another question, Daniel's driver opened the SUV door. The moment was ending. Daniel stepped backward toward the vehicle. Take care of yourself tonight, Emily. Then he paused. His gaze settled on Sophia. And take care of her. Something in the way he said those words sent a chill through Emily, because it sounded less like a polite goodbye and more like a promise from someone whose life had somehow become connected to theirs long before they ever met. Emily spent most of the night staring at the ceiling of a small budget hotel room near downtown Chicago. Sophia slept peacefully in the portable crib beside the bed, completely unaware of the storm of thoughts racing through her mother's mind. Every time Emily closed her eyes, she saw Daniel Brooks standing outside the airport. She heard his voice. Part business, part something else. Those words refused to leave her alone. Shortly after sunrise, she sat at the tiny desk near the window and examined the business card again. It looked exactly the same as it had the night before. Clean, simple, real. She still could not decide whether accepting the invitation was a brilliant opportunity or a terrible mistake. By 8 o'clock, she was standing in front of Brooks Technologies headquarters. The building towered above the city skyline, its glass exterior reflecting the morning sun. Employees in tailored suits moved confidently through the revolving doors. Emily suddenly became very aware of her modest clothes and the stroller she was pushing. For a brief moment, she considered turning around. Then Sophia smiled up at her. That was enough. Inside, a receptionist greeted her immediately. To Emily's surprise, her name was already on the visitor list. Within minutes, she was escorted to a private elevator. The experience felt surreal. The elevator climbed higher and higher until the doors opened onto the executive floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed breathtaking views stretching for miles across Chicago. A woman in her 40s approached with a professional smile. Ms. Carter, welcome. My name is Laura. Mr. Brooks is expecting you. Emily followed her down a quiet hallway. Several employees glanced up as she passed. Some appeared confused. Others looked curious. A young mother carrying a toddler was not the typical visitor to the executive offices. Laura stopped outside a large office. He is waiting for you inside. Emily took a deep breath and entered. Daniel stood near the window. He turned immediately when she walked in. Something about his expression softened when he saw Sophia. Thank you for coming, he said. I almost did not. I know. The answer surprised her. Daniel motioned toward a comfortable seating area. Toys had been placed near one side of the room. Juice boxes sat on a nearby table. Emily stared. You prepared for Sophia? I wanted her to feel welcome. Again, the gesture felt unusually personal. As Sophia happily crawled toward the toys, Daniel moved to his desk and opened a thin folder. Emily expected a job interview. Questions about experience, references, qualifications. Instead, Daniel carefully removed a photograph. Her heart skipped instantly. It was Ava, the same sister from the picture she carried in her bag. Only this photograph was different. Ava stood beside Daniel, both of them smiling at the camera years earlier. Emily looked from the photograph to Daniel in complete disbelief. The room suddenly felt very still. You knew her, Emily whispered. Daniel lowered his eyes briefly. The emotion in his face answered before his words did. Yes, he said softly. I knew Ava. Emily could not take her eyes off the photograph. Ava stood beside Daniel on a sunny afternoon, both appearing younger than she remembered. The image felt impossible. During all the years she had known her sister, Ava had never once mentioned Daniel Brooks. Not a single story. Not a single photograph. Nothing. Yet the picture in front of her proved they had shared some kind of connection. How? Emily finally asked. How did you know her? Daniel remained quiet for several seconds. His gaze drifted toward the skyline beyond the glass windows. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight Emily had never heard before. 10 years ago, my life looked very different. Emily listened carefully. Even Sophia seemed unusually calm, sitting nearby while playing with a colorful toy block. Back then, I was building my company, Daniel continued. The business was struggling. Investors were pulling away. Every day felt like another setback. He smiled faintly at the memory. Most people only know the success story now. They do not know how close everything came to falling apart. Emily nodded. She understood struggle better than most. Daniel looked down at the photograph. One afternoon, I met Ava by accident. The word accident caught Emily's attention immediately. What happened? We started talking. A small laugh escaped him. Actually, she did most of the talking. For the first time since entering the office, warmth appeared in his expression. Your sister had a gift. She could walk into a room full of worried people and somehow make them believe things would be okay. Emily felt a familiar ache in her chest. That description sounded exactly like Ava. She was always like that, Emily whispered. Daniel nodded. For several months, we became friends. Whenever things went wrong, she reminded me why I started. Whenever I doubted myself, she pushed me forward. His eyes softened. She helped me more than she ever realized. Emily stared at him. Suddenly, certain pieces began fitting together. Not all of them. Just enough to deepen the mystery. Were you in love with her? The question slipped out before she could stop herself. Daniel did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward Sophia, then back toward the photograph. Finally, a sad smile appeared. I cared about her very much. The careful wording told Emily everything she needed to know. Silence settled across the room. After a moment, Emily swallowed hard. Then why did she never mention you? That question seemed to strike Daniel directly. The sadness in his eyes deepened. Because one day she disappeared. Emily froze. What? I tried contacting her. Calls went unanswered. Emails stopped. Months passed. Then years. Daniel took a slow breath. I never knew why. Emily felt her heart begin to race. She had lived through those years. She remembered Ava becoming distant, private, secretive. Yet even then, her sister never spoke about Daniel. What happened after that? Daniel reached into the folder once more. His fingers closed around another document. That, he said quietly, is the question I have been trying to answer for nearly a decade. And I think meeting you and Sophia may finally explain everything. Emily leaned forward in her chair, unable to look away from the document in Daniel's hands. Every answer seemed to create two new questions. Ava had known him. They had been close. Then she vanished from his life without explanation. None of it matched the sister Emily remembered. Ava had always been open with her. At least that was what Emily used to believe. What is that? Emily asked quietly. Daniel carefully unfolded the paper. H had turned the edges slightly yellow. It was clearly something he had kept for a long time. The last thing Ava ever sent me. Emily felt her breath catch. Daniel slid the document across the table. She picked it up carefully. It was a handwritten note. The familiar handwriting instantly sent a wave of emotion through her chest. She would have recognized those letters anywhere. Ava's handwriting had always been elegant, almost artistic. Emily's eyes scanned the page. Most of the message contained ordinary words. Gratitude, encouragement, hope. Yet one sentence stood out immediately. If anything happens and I cannot explain, please believe that I made my choice to protect someone I love. Emily read the sentence again. Then again. Her hands trembled slightly. Protect who? She whispered. I never knew, Daniel replied. That question stayed with me for years. He stood and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. Until I saw Sophia. Emily's heart began pounding. Daniel turned. Slowly. How old is she? 18 months. His jaw tightened slightly. That timeline matters. Emily stared at him. The room suddenly felt much smaller. What are you saying? Daniel returned to the table. His expression remained calm, but she could see tension beneath the surface. I hired investigators years ago, not because I wanted to invade Ava's privacy, because I wanted answers. He paused. Last night, after our flight landed, I asked them to reopen everything. Emily felt a knot forming in her stomach. Everything, every record, every lead, every unanswered question. Daniel reached into the folder and removed another page. This one appeared far newer. Freshly printed. The first report arrived this morning. Emily looked down at the document. Names, dates, locations. Most meant nothing to her. Then one detail immediately caught her attention. Ava Carter, Chicago, Illinois. Nearly 2 years before her death. Emily frowned. Ava never told me she was in Chicago. Exactly. Daniel pointed toward another line. She visited 3 times. Confusion filled Emily's face. None of it made sense. Why would Ava hide those trips? Why keep them secret from her own family? Daniel lowered his voice. Because I think she was trying to solve a problem alone. Emily felt the weight of every word. What kind of problem? For a moment, Daniel seemed uncertain whether to continue. Then his gaze shifted toward Sophia, who sat happily stacking colorful blocks nearby. A gentle smile touched his face. That, he said softly, is what I believe connects all of this. Emily followed his eyes toward her daughter. The realization hit like a sudden flash of lightning. Her pulse quickened instantly. Daniel, she whispered. What exactly do you think Ava was protecting? Daniel held her gaze. Then he revealed the possibility that had haunted him all night. I think she was protecting Sophia. Emily stared at Daniel in complete silence. The possibility felt impossible, yet somehow it explained too many things. Ava's secret trips to Chicago. Her sudden disappearance from Daniel's life. The mysterious note she left behind. Most of all, it explained why Daniel reacted so strongly. The moment he saw Sophia. I do not understand, Emily said softly. Sophia is my daughter. Daniel nodded immediately. I know that. His voice was gentle. I am not questioning that for a second. Relief washed across Emily's face. Then what are you saying? Daniel sat down across from her. For the first time since this conversation began, the tension seemed to leave his shoulders. I think Ava knew something important about Sophia's future. Something she believed she needed to protect. Emily looked down at her daughter. Sophia had finished stacking blocks and was now laughing happily at her own creation. The innocence of that moment made everything else feel even more surreal. Ava helped me after Sophia was born, Emily said quietly. More than anyone. Memories began returning. Small details she had never questioned before. Ava visiting unexpectedly. Ava insisting on helping with expenses. Ava always checking on the baby. Ava looking relieved whenever Sophia was healthy and safe. She loved her, Emily whispered. Daniel smiled. That part one believed completely. He opened the folder one final time. Inside was a sealed envelope. The paper looked old, carefully preserved. Emily's eyes widened. What is that? Daniel held the envelope for a moment before answering. It arrived 6 years ago. From Ava? Yes. Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. Daniel carefully handed it to her. Her fingers trembled as she examined the front. Written in Ava's familiar handwriting were 4 simple words. Open only if found. Tears instantly filled Emily's eyes. You never opened it? Daniel shook his head. The instructions were clear. Silence settled over the room. Emily slowly broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. Ava's words seemed to come alive across the page. She wrote about hope, about family, about mistakes. She wrote about believing that some people enter our lives for a reason, even when we do not understand that reason at first. Near the end, Emily found the sentence that changed everything. If you are reading this, then life has finally brought you together. Please take care of each other. Neither of you should have to carry life's burdens alone. Emily lowered the letter. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Daniel looked equally emotional. Years of unanswered questions suddenly felt lighter. Not because every mystery had been solved, because the most important one had. Ava had never wanted them to remain strangers. She had wanted them to find each other. Sophia toddled across the room at that exact moment and reached both arms upward. Without thinking, Emily and Daniel moved at the same time. Sophia giggled as they helped her stand between them. The simple moment felt unexpectedly meaningful. Outside the windows, Chicago stretched toward the horizon beneath the afternoon sun. Inside the office, something new had begun. Emily arrived in the city searching for a job. Instead, she found answers. She found support. Most importantly, she found someone who genuinely cared about her daughter's future. Daniel looked at Sophia, then at Emily. A warm smile appeared. For the first time in a very long time, Emily smiled back. The future was still uncertain, yet it no longer felt like something she had to face alone.